I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and today we're driving a pretty important new 7-seat SUV. It's the new Hyundai Santa Fe. The last Santa Fe was a really popular car here in Australia, and it's been around for 6 years now, and in fact by the end it was still holding up really well. That said, it's always better to be ahead of a car getting too old and too long in the tooth, and that's exactly what Hyundai have done with the new Santa Fe, which is on an all-new platform, although it does share a few things with the outgoing car, like its 2.2-litre turbo diesel engine. That said, as you can see behind me, it looks very different. It adopts the brand's new design language for SUVs that we've already seen on the Hyundai Kona, and it's definitely going to polarize. Some people I think will love it and some will hate it. So let me know what you think of the new Santa Fe down below in the comments. Well, the Santa Fe has to compete kind of with two types of cars. On the small end, things like the Skoda Kodiaq, which we really like here on Chasing Cars, and at the big end, the really impressive Mazda CX-9. So it does have its work cut out for it. We're going to take it for a drive, we're going to see how roomy it is, but as usual, we'll start inside and check out what is a new and improved interior. Although it looks really different outside, the other place that you'll notice big changes to the Hyundai Santa Fe is here inside, and it actually does take quite a significant step up in quality and luxury. Now, we are in the Highlander variant here, which means you get all the goodies, including the best quality of trim, the nicest leather seats, the most driver's seat adjustment, etc. But even the new base model, the Active, feels definitely a step up inside than the car it replaces. So let's talk about what you get. New to the Santa Fe is Hyundai's floating touchscreen up here. It used to be integrated in the dash. The software is pretty similar, but it's now 8 inches in size in the Elite and the Highlander, 7 inches in the Active, which is the only one to miss out on navigation. You do get that in the higher models, plus all of them have CarPlay and Android Auto. Plus the Elite and Highlander have a really impressive Infinity stereo that sounds great. If you go the whole hog into the Highlander, you get some really nice leather seats. They have a quilted design on the upper, and you can choose between black, this sort of brown tan color, and also a burgundy choice in the Highlander, and the seats look and feel really good. There's 14-way adjustment on the driver's seat with 2-position memory. There's heating, cooling, and even a heated steering wheel. So for, a car that's relatively affordable for a luxurious 7-seater, the Santa Fe Highlander really offers a significant range of premium features, and you also get this nice panoramic sunroof that lets plenty of light into the cabin. Material quality generally has improved a lot in this new generation. There's a soft touch dashboard which looks more presentable now with contrast stitching, soft touch materials down here where your leg rests, and up here on the doors is nice and soft as well. That said, if you do look for hard plastics, you can find them, but they're just not in the most important places. And even the Active gets this nice, more attractive leather steering wheel. Practicality is okay. There's Qi wireless charging on the higher models, 2 big cup holders between the seats, and a really deep box where you'd be able to stash something like a big camera or maybe a small bag. And the door bins have gotten a little smaller though. It's a bit harder to jam a water bottle into those now. It's pretty practical here in the second row of the Santa Fe, and that starts with doors that open really wide to help make it easier to fit a child seat. They also close with a reassuring thunk that makes this feel like a really solid and safe car. In terms of room back here, it's actually pretty good, even for 3 adults sitting side by side, and that's because the floor is completely flat. Despite the fact that every new Santa Fe in Australia has all-wheel drive, there's still not an annoying hump down there, which is excellent. For me at 6 foot, I've got enough headroom, even with this really cool panoramic sunroof. Legroom's fine, and so is tow room. That said, I do have the seat pushed all the way back for maximum second row comfort. I'll show you what it's like if I slide it forward to give people in the 3rd row more space. Then you can see that my legs really are up against the back of this seat. It has another special feature though, in the form of a bit of recline, which means that you could pretty easily doze off back here on a long road trip because the seat itself is quite comfortable. And you even have niceties like a built-in sunshade, if I can work that out, which means that you won't have sun glare on the faces of little ones back here. And kids will appreciate the fact that there are 2 powered USB ports and air vents to keep the air flowing back here to help stave off car sickness. At the back end of this new Santa Fe, which I reckon is pretty handsome, there's an electric tailgate on the top 2 models, which actually rises pretty quickly. Now, every new Santa Fe is a 7-seater, and the back seats are nice and easy to bring up. They're light, so anyone will be able to do this. It's only a small reach, and then what you'll see is there's actually enough room behind those back seats to fit a couple of soft bags like this, the weekly grocery shop, etc. 547 litres behind the second row. Now, in terms of getting into those third row seats, it's pretty easy because the door opens nice and wide, and there's a one-touch button now which moves that seat right out of the way. They've also added a couple more grips so I can scramble in a little bit more gracefully, but still not very. But I mean, the third row isn't really made for people my size, it's for your smaller children, and for them there's definitely enough room back here. So I'll slide this second row back to show you just how much space you get, and recline it back to normal. Now this is how much space there is with the middle seat in sort of a middle position. Enough legroom for people in the second row, and actually just enough legroom for me with longer legs, but anyone that's shorter than me will be completely fine back here. Headroom is enough for a 6-footer. There's also a separate fan control here in the third row, plus the curtain airbag from the second row stretches back just to cover the glass for people in the third row, which is better than in some of this car's rivals, although not a full curtain for people in the very back. So what's the new Santa Fe like to drive? Well, the old car was actually still driving pretty well by the end, so it's not like Hyundai had to make major improvements to make the Santa Fe one of the better large SUVs to drive. But that said, they've made a few refinements here and there that add up to make the Santa Fe actually a pretty refined experience. Firstly, it's on a new platform, so apart from sharing an engine with the old Santa Fe diesel, there's a lot that's new going on under the skin here, and it does feel like a more solid and cohesive driving experience than the old car. But first, let's talk about what's stayed the same, and that's the 2.2 litre single turbo diesel 4-cylinder engine. It still makes an identical 147 kilowatts of power and 441 Newton meters of torque. But that said, this diesel is one of the good ones in the segment. It's not the quietest, you can definitely hear it working, but it's smooth, it's linear, it's got a nice chunk of torque, and 441 Newton meters is enough for a car of this size. But that said, you wouldn't accuse the Santa Fe of being fast, and things like overtaking maneuvers if you don't have a really long space still need a little bit of planning, particularly if you've got several adults on board. However, while in the old Santa Fe you got a 6-speed torque converter automatic gearbox, they've added 2 more cogs for the new car, bringing you up to a total of 8 speeds. That said, the new gearbox feels very similar in character to the old one, but the addition of a couple of more gears at the top means that highway fuel economy has improved a little bit in the new Santa Fe, and we've been able to get pretty close to the manufacturer's claim over some fairly spirited country driving today. And if you're relaxed with the Santa Fe, you can easily get it into the 7 litre per 100 kilometre range, which is impressive for a big 7-seater. There's still a 4-cylinder petrol engine available on the base model, however only about 5% of buyers will go for that. That said, Hyundai Australia are pretty disappointed that they weren't able to get the 3.3 litre V6 petrol that was pretty popular over the last year in the outgoing model. They're considering it for later on in this car. For now, most people are going to get the turbo diesel. But how does the Santa Fe handle day-to-day in town and out here in the country? Well, it's an easy car to drive. Anybody could jump behind the wheel of this car and feel pretty comfortable and at home rapidly. The steering has been improved quite dramatically actually over the last car. It's nice and light in comfort mode. You can rotate the Santa Fe easily and visibility is good. But then if you put it into sport mode on a good road, there's actually quite a nice weighting to the steering. It's linear, it feels good. And in the Highlander model, you get Continental Conti Sport tyres that actually have lots and lots of grip. On the lower models, you don't get quite as impressive a tyre, but they're still fine. One issue with the Santa Fe though is that it's quite a noisy car. There's a fair bit of wind noise and some road noise on the non-Continental tyres that manages to make its way through into the cabin. Something like a Skoda Kodiaq is significantly quieter on a longer road trip. The ride quality, as usual with Hyundai products, has been tuned specifically for Australia along with the steering, and it's pretty good. For Australia, Hyundai targets a more sporty quality of ride, and you can feel that, but the Santa Fe ends up striking a middle ground between feeling quite floaty and comfortable over big bumps, but it's a little bit firm and fidgety over smaller stuff. And you'll have to try it to see whether you like that mix. Me personally, I think a car like this, it's better just to be big, comfortable and lush without pursuing a sporty feel for a car that isn't designed to be sporty to start with. What has been dramatically improved though is the Santa Fe safety proposition. You now get features like adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist, plus autonomous emergency braking on every car. And as you step further up the Santa Fe range, you get access to some pretty innovative safety technology, including a new form of blind spot monitoring that actually diverts you away from the path of a vehicle that you're about to drive in front of by braking the outside wheels, and also a system that alerts you if you've accidentally left a child or a pet in the back seat by beeping the horn at you once you've left the car. So, as you've probably figured out, I reckon the new Santa Fe is a pretty great effort. Hyundai have been consistently improving their product for so long now that the current range is rightly regarded as right up there with Mazda and Volkswagen for premium quality. The new Santa Fe is a remarkable demonstration of that. The driving experience is decent, if not perfect, but the accommodation inside is impressively luxurious, the onboard technology offer is vast, and the emphasis on safety is particularly admirable. If you're after a 7-seater, it'd be a mistake to leave this vehicle off your shopping list.